A human baby is a term given to the babies of Homo sapiens species, and in the present that we live now, most of these babies are growing up with their iPads and high-speed internet. But with time, this easily accessible technology has created a generation of many young and brain-dead left-handed teenage masturbators. You might think that's hilarious, but this evolution is not an ordinary situation. In fact, the consumption of high-speed internet porn is frying the brains of the new generation at a rate that is beyond our imagination. Hello everyone, today we will discuss the harmful neurological effects of high-speed internet pornography on the brains of young teenagers. This topic may be uncomfortable for some people, but it's the truth that we all need to know. If you don't already know, now with just a click, you can have 20 different 4K videos running in 20 different tabs. This provides an endless buffet of sexual content for teenagers who want to overstimulate their brains with dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that is released during the pursuit of a reward or a pleasure. Watching anything sexual triggers dopamine release in most people. Now look at this graph, for example. It shows how much dopamine is released by food, sex, nicotine, cocaine, and porn. I would like to add that this graph is not really accurate because dopamine levels are not consistent from person to person and can also vary based on the quality of the experience. However, you can clearly see a trend where dopamine levels are staying elevated for hours compared to the other factors. This is because high-speed internet makes it possible to watch video after video, keeping the brain stimulated however long it's desired. If you don't understand what's going on, just read about dopamine wave pool analogy. Now let's talk about my favorite topic, neuroplasticity. You know how it's easier to learn a new language when you're young compared to when you're old? Well, it's because young brains are super neuroplastic. Basically, neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to adapt and rewire itself based on new experiences. During this developmental phase of children, their brains can form new neural connections very quickly as they learn and experience new things. But here's the catch. This same plasticity makes them super vulnerable to addictions. Well, this is because in the early childhood, the brain's reward system is dominant and almost developed. However, the areas that prevent the reward system of the brain from getting out of control are still immature. So when something highly addictive like porn comes along, it hijacks the brain's reward system and leaves the regulatory system helpless. And moreover, you should also know, when the brain is repeatedly exposed to porn, two things happen. Number 1, dopamine desensitization. When the brain gets filled with dopamine, it feels great at first, but abusing that will eventually lead to dopamine desensitization. That means that dopamine receptors are getting cooked. If dopamine is the key, then dopamine receptor is the lock. When you keep fiddling around the key in the lock eventually wears out and doesn't respond to the key properly. The same way, dopamine receptors become less receptive to dopamine, and it results into less pleasure from everyday activities that do not include porn. Number 2 on the list is the buildup of delta phos-B. When the brain is repeatedly exposed to highly stimulating content, it also increases the production of a protein called delta phos-B. Delta phos-B accumulates in nucleus accumbens, which is the brain's pleasure center. This reinforces compulsive behavior and rewires the brain to crave for more porn. Think of it like sledding down a snowy hill. The more you take the same path, the deeper it gets, making it harder to change course. Similarly, in the brain, these neural pathways are created by delta phos-B, and it's easier for dopamine to take this path, which reinforces the addiction over time. And the scary part is that even after delta phos-B levels drop, the pathways remain the same. Additionally, some studies have shown that long-term porn addiction correlates with atrophy or cell death in the gray matter areas of the brain. This atrophy is particularly prominent in the striatum and orbital frontal cortex. That's why a lot of heavily addicted porn users face arousal issues and erectile dysfunction later on in their lives. Now imagine if someone at a young age is heavily addicted to porn. It will be a disaster for proper brain development. So if you are someone who is addicted to porn, or if you're someone who was addicted to porn as a kid and is facing issues in their adulthood, you might be wondering how can these effects be reversed? Well, the good news is that it's possible, and the bad news is that it's very hard. The solution to this lies in neuroplasticity. The same neuroplasticity pathways that adapt your brain to porn can also help fix your brain. It is a complex process, and I will be creating a separate video on supplements and some protocols to address this issue. Creating videos for YouTube is tough and takes a lot of resources and time, so I will appreciate if you subscribe and like the video. Thank you very much.